everybody. This is Ms. Cave with a lesson on volume of rectangular prisms. You should have this handout that you received in class. And we are calculating volume of prisms. Today we did a lesson on looking at if we could fit a box of soup into a container, if we had enough room. One of the classes has not done that yet, so we're not going to let them know what the answer is just yet. We're going to have to look at that later. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about words for volume. So let's think about how we use volume in everyday life. So what are some words that let us know that it's volume? What are some words with volume? How do I know it's volume? Desi? So what are some key words for volume? What are some words we're looking for? So what did we do the container? We did what to it with soup? But how would we know we had to find volume? Okay, Kayleen? That's the formula. So the formula for finding volume is equal to length times width times height. But what about, how do I know that I need to find volume? What are some real life words that help us know that? Aaron? Okay, that word she used was fill. So if I'm filling something up, okay, how much will something hold? Those are key words. That's another key word for volume. Skylar? Area inside of a shape. Area inside of something. It doesn't even have to be a shape. So these are all clue words that help us know that we're going to calculate the volume. And we already did a couple of examples with the activity we did in class with soup du jour. And then this is the formula that we're going to use. We've been evaluating expressions by plugging in numbers. We're doing the same thing now. We just are given a formula. And we have to look at shapes and word problems to figure out which numbers go inside the formula. So we're going to start with example 1. So open up your foldable. And we're going to find the volume of this rectangular prism by applying the formula. Volume is equal to, and we're going to write it out for the first one, length times width times height. Okay? So looking at our shape, our length is going to be 10 centimeters. Our width, which is W, is going to be 5 centimeters. And then our height is going to be equal to 2 centimeters. So to find the volume, what you're doing is you're finding the area of the base. The length times width is the base of the shape. That 10 times 5 is also known as the base. Go ahead and write that there. That's really important. That's the length and the width. That's the base. And if it was just a rectangle, it would be 10 times 5. But it's a three-dimensional shape. So we're going to have to multiply it by the 2. So the 10 times 5, this is 50, right? The area of my base is 50. But in order to get the volume, how much it will hold, I have to multiply that by the height. So my 10 times 5, 50 times 2, our volume would be equal to 100 cubic centimeters. And it's cubic because you're multiplying centimeter times centimeter times centimeter. So this is just a simple example. You guys have learned this before of how to find volume. The second example below, you guys can notice you have words, not a shape. So we just have to pick out, it tells you the length, the width, and the height. So we're going to use the same formula again. V, and this time I'm not going to write out the words. I'm just going to use my formula. Length times width times height. And it tells me my length is 4. So I'm going to plug in 4 centimeters for length. My width is 10. I'm going to multiply that times 10 centimeters. And then my height is 12. centimeters. So just like the last problem, I'm just going to multiply those three numbers together. And if I multiply 4 times 10 times 12, I get 40 times 12, which is 480. I think. It is. Yes, it is. $480. I had to double check myself for a second. So that's the volume. The volume of this when we're given words. Now these problems are going to get a little more difficult. Sometimes you're given the volume and you have to figure out the length or the width. But we're going to practice these easier ones first before we get to those more complicated problems. And it's just about substituting numbers into a formula. So let's go on to number, we did 3. Let's go back to 2. Let's do example 2. So underneath here, we have our formula. Now we have a problem that involves a real nice situation, a real life situation. It's a nice situation because it's a swimming pool. That's why I said that, I think. If a swimming pool, we know the length, it's 24 feet. The width is 17 feet. And the depth is 5 feet. So let's think about this. Our formula is length times width times height. I have the length, which is 24 feet. I have the width, which is 17 feet, but I don't have the height. This word here represents the same thing as the height. If you think about a pool, the depth of the pool is how tall the pool is, right? It's just in the ground. That's why we call it depth. So depth is the same thing as our h, our height value. So we're going to multiply that by 5 feet. And again, I'm just going to put these numbers in my calculator. 24 times 17 times 5. And if I multiply those three numbers together, I get 24, times 17 times 5. I get 2,040, not feet. What kind of feet? No? Cubic. Remember the 3, if you're not sure, people always ask, do I use squared or cubed? If there's 3 dimensions, it's cubed. So now we're going to look at the last one. The last one is a little more challenging. So this time, you're given the volume. And then if you look at the picture, you're given the volume. And you're trying to figure out what the height of the prism is. And it's already given to you. So what you're going to do is cross this out and pretend that you don't know it so I can show you how to do this. Okay? So let's pretend you don't know that it's 4. So volume is equal to your length and your width. So your length is 10 inches. Your width is 3 inches. Right? But we're going to assume we don't know that height. So we're going to plug in h for height. Okay? So this time, we know the volume, but what we don't know is the height. So we're going to plug in what we know for volume. What's the volume, everybody? 120. It's 120 cubic inches, and I know that's going to be equal to, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. 10 inches times 3. I'm going to multiply the two numbers I can times h, right? So what number would I multiply 30 by to get 120? I know we know the answer, right? But do you see how we'd get it? We divide 120 by 30, which is the area of the base. We also divide the other side by 30 because we're solving an equation. And then you get 30 cubic inches goes into 120. Actually, this would be squared, right? Because this is just squared right now, because it's just the 2 dimensions. And then that gives us 4 inches is equal to the height. So that one we already knew the answer, but do you guys see how we came up with that? Yeah. We knew the end result. We just had to divide to get that missing number. All right, that is how we find volume of rectangular prisms. Tomorrow in class, we're going to do some practice with volume. And then we're going to talk about another shape and how we find its volume. A circle, you said? It's not a circle. Not a triangle. It's not a square. Cylinder. Cylinder. So this is a cylinder. So now we're going to figure out how much. We'll do a problem that allows us to try to figure out how we can fill a cylinder, and it's composed of 2 circles and another shape we'll talk about tomorrow. My class, my wonderful Core 4 Poke 7 class would like to say hello on 3.